Welcome to Course 1, Unit 3, Standardization Principles. So before we let you off on your ISO work, we want to go through some of the key standardization principles that underline all work at ISO. So in this unit, we will answer the following questions. So what is the code of conduct? This is one very important document at ISO. What is the global relevancy principle? What other principles support the development of ISO documents? And where can I find important reference material? Because I guarantee that you will forget most of the stuff we'll cover during this unit, but that is not a problem. The aim is really just to introduce the key clauses within these important documents, and we will provide you all the required links so that you could refer back to them. So starting with one of the important document at ISO, the Code of Conduct, and this is why we tag this slide as a useful slide to remember. The ISO Code of Conduct applies to every single person participating in an ISO group. So be it a policy group, a technical or project committee or working group, or any other consensus group. It is designed and intended to facilitate the work that we carry out at an international level in a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral environment. So this is quite a big challenge, and the ISO Code of Conduct is there to help us. So any participant in ISO must adhere to this Code of Conduct. We recommend keeping it out there in the open. Often the Code of Conduct is printed and made available at the ISO meetings. So the ISO Code of Conduct essentially contains a pledge made by people undertaking ISO work. So some of the key clauses, we recognize that the development of international standard is for the benefit, first and foremost, of the international community, because we're working at ISO. So ISO works at the international level. There's other organization working at the regional or the national level, but ISO works at the international level. So we work for the benefit of that international community over and above the interest of any individual or organization. We are committed to advancing these standards within the agreed scope, and we will not hinder their development simply for the sake of personal interest or one single organization's interest. We uphold key principles in the standardization process. One of them is consensus, which I introduced in Unit 1. It's one of the most important one that relates to standards, but there are other key principles such as transparency, openness, impartiality, effectiveness, relevance, coherence, and so forth. These are all included in the ISO Code of Conduct. We are committed to having a clear purpose and scope with objectives and a plan in place. So this plan often is found in the strategic business plans of the technical committees, and it's there to ensure the timely development of international standards. We agreed to participate actively and to manage effective representation through the official procedures in accordance with the ISO and IC directive. So in Unit 2, we saw who are the different people sitting around a technical committee and how these people are appointed. There is a way to escalate and resolve disputes, so we agree to respect this process of dispute resolution. We will, of course, behave ethically, acting in good faith, due care and diligence. We will avoid all collusion or anti-competitive behaviors, and we will simply promote a culture of fair and ethical behavior. Of course, we will respect others in meetings and the professional culture that is associated with international standardizations. So we will, respect others in their opinion, accept group decisions, even if it doesn't necessarily correspond to our personal or organization's view. If there's a group consensus, we're certainly allowed to comment, debate, but at the end of the day, we're not allowed to break this group consensus just for our personal interest. And of course, we have to help each other to ensure that the views of all are heard and understood and considered. Because at the end of the day, the more our standard is accepted by a wider community, a wider global community, then the more the standard will be used by consumers. So the ISO Code of Conduct is available on the ISO website. The link will appear in the description below these slides. So global relevance, because ISO is an international organization developing international standard, it's important that the deliverables are published and that they are globally relevant when they are published. So that is a key principle at ISO, and if we manage to respect that, then the World Trade Organization will recognize ISO standards as tools to help international trade. Global relevance is achieved by ensuring that the international standards are relevant and effectively respond to regulatory and market needs and to scientific and technological developments in various countries around the world. International standards should not distort the global market. They should not have adverse effects on fair competition, and they should not stifle innovation and technological breakthrough. On the opposite, there are many examples where international standards foster innovation. International standards are intended to facilitate fair competition between economic operators. We do not want to create technical barriers to trade. On the opposite, we are aiming to achieve fair competition through standardization. In addition, international standards should not give preference to the characteristics or requirements of specific countries or region when needs or interests exist in other countries or region. I mean, that's an obvious one. We're developing an international standard, so it needs to be applicable globally. Last but not least, international standards should be performance-based rather than based on design or descriptive characteristic, meaning that they should call for a result rather than the way this result is achieved. So that's also, if you think about that for a few seconds, you'll see that that's obvious, because if we start setting requirements on a design, for example, then that will set clear advantages for companies that are able to create such products with these specifications. So we're hindering fair competition, and we might be creating potential technical barriers. So more information concerning the ISO Global Relevancy Policy, some guidance and key message for committee leaders and other participants are available on the ISO website that you see appearing here on this slide, and the link will also appear in the description below. So the core activity of ISO is, of course, to publish international standards. So let's see now which principles support this activity. So ISO work follows the project approach. A project is any work intended to lead to the issue of a new, amended, or revised ISO deliverable. A project consists of a set of processes that have start and end dates. And these processes include activities that are performed to achieve objectives. So the secretary of the technical committee or subcommittee is responsible for the management of all projects in the committee's work program, including monitoring their progress against specific target dates. So when we speak of ISO deliverables, we mean international standard, technical specification, publicly available specification, or technical reports. So to find out more about these different deliverables, I would refer you forward to course 1, unit 4. So don't worry if these terms are a bit confusing to you. Literally in the next unit, we will be covering these ISO deliverables. So consensus, which requires the resolution of any serious objections, is an essential procedure and necessary condition for the preparation of all ISO deliverables. Although it's necessary to work fast, sufficient time is required before publication for discussion, negotiation, and resolution of significant technical disagreements. In the future courses, we'll go through, we'll spend a lot of time going through the different steps, and this is where you will understand where this time is given in every single stages. To reach consensus, many different points of view will of course be expressed and addressed as the document moves forward to the various steps. We'll see as I said earlier, we'll see the different layers of consensus in the future courses. However, sustained opposition are views expressed at meetings of committees, working groups, or other ad hoc groups, which are maintained by an important part of the concerned interests and which are incompatible with the committee consensus. Any such sustained opposition needs to be recorded. So the notion of concerned interests will vary depending on the dynamics of the committee and must therefore be determined by the committee leadership on a case-by-case basis. So this is why we appoint a chairman to the technical committee, and this is why we appoint conveners or project leaders at the project level. Keep in mind that the concept of sustained opposition does not apply in the context of the committee draft stage or DIS stage or FDIS stage ballots, since these are subject to specific voting rules. So again, we will cover all these different balloting rules and stages in course 3. So as promised in my introductory remarks, so the rules and the procedures for developing ISO deliverables are contained in Directives Part 1. The consolidated document contains the ISO and IEC text common to both organizations, as well as the rules applicable only to ISO. The second part of the ISO IEC directive deals with the drafting rules, so everything that regards editing of the document. So we have an entire course that is dedicated to drafting of international standard, and this is course 4. So all these documents are freely available, of course, in various formats, and can be found on our website, iso.org, and searching for directives and policies. So aside from the directives, you can also use the TMB communique to keep up to date with the latest rules and resolution affecting your ISO technical work. The TMB shapes the technical environment. It meets, as mentioned in Unit 1, 3 times a year and issues resolutions that are applicable to some or all ISO committees. So the TMB communique is released after each TMB meeting. It explains these resolutions that are taken and their impact on your work within the ISO committees and the day-to-day work of the committee leaders. So check the description to find the link to these TMB communiques. If you want to know more about the role of the TMB, I would refer you back to Course 1, Unit 1. So that's it for me for this unit. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said in my introductory remarks, this is a lot of information. It's very important. So you have to remember these key principles, and ISO makes all the key documents available to you on its website so that you can refer back to them. So thank you very much for your attention, and see you in the next unit.